Alright, welcome back to another SegWeather video looking at your forecast for your Friday, July 24th of 2026. We're going to go ahead and dive into the details right away with what to expect for your Friday, starting off with the radar, looking at some showers ongoing across Missouri, northern parts of Illinois, and parts of Kansas and Oklahoma as we're watching the system moving through the area right now. It's just triggering those shower chances and also extending down to deep south, seeing some ongoing showers occurring along the same front as right now it's just stalling over these areas, which will contribute to potential flooding, especially in this area as we head throughout your day today. More on that in a little bit. And looking at our current watches and warnings, a lot going on with a extreme heat watch over southern parts of Minnesota and sending down into parts of Missouri as we're watching an upcoming heat wave. We could bring the potential for some extreme heat indices up to 115 or higher as we head starting on Sunday, which is when this will go into effect. So on Sunday afternoon, watching that being the case, may extend to Illinois as some of these hotter indices may even reach much of Illinois for your day on your Sunday into Monday. But looking at the plains, a heat advisory in place for today with heat indices above 100 looking pretty likely, and same thing for the Rockies, seeing the oranges. Wherever you see an orange is where you will see that occur. And then with the dark purples, indicates where we have areas of extreme heat warnings, which are currently in place. These will be in place for Montana and for the southwest corner of the U.S. throughout your day today, looking at heat index values well over 105 to about 120. So looking quite hot for those areas. Meanwhile, the Pacific Northwest, though the areas here in the lighter red, those are red flag warnings, which indicates hot, dry air moving in the upper levels, and along with that, very low humidity. And unfortunately, when we have this occurring, this could lead to quickly spreading wildfires. And especially if you have one that's ongoing, unfortunately, that leads to an increase in that potential as we head, especially with this outlook being the case. And unfortunately, that does look to be the case for today, with that occurring especially across the Pacific Northwest to the Rockies. So make sure you're in high alert, especially if you're in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and even parts of southeastern Wyoming and, of course, western parts of South Dakota. Watching that very closely for your day today, and then a flood watch in place for the southern parts of the nation due to that front stalling, and with it bringing that flooding potential for that area for your day today. And speaking of that flood potential, unfortunately, we have a slight to moderate risk for excessive rainfall in place from Missouri extending down towards the coast. So watching that very closely. If that front does continue to stall for your day today, will bring that flooding potential with some of these downpours throughout your day on your Friday. A marginal risk out towards the Rockies. So not as bad as the last couple of days where it's been quite significant. Looking at a much lower threat for your day today, but still a couple of downpours could lead to some flooding in these areas. And then another part of it in the upper parts of Minnesota as we head throughout your day on your Friday. Now, looking at your smoke forecast for today, this afternoon, well, late afternoon into mid evening. This is where we do expect the smoke to be the greatest, especially across Washington, Montana, northern Idaho, northeastern parts of Oregon, as we do expect the smoky skies to remain in place due to the ongoing wildfires, which may be indicated with the red and purples. That's areas where we may be having those wildfires ongoing. So, especially if you're in eastern parts of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, watch out because these fires will have these smoky, hazy skies will heavily impact you at this time. But elsewhere, not looking too bad across much of the country. Looking at some spotty haze due to lingering Canada wildfire smoke lingering around. That's all due to that cold front pretty much dispersing it across much of the country. So that won't be a concern, but again, you may see some hints of some smoke, some hints of some white in the air that's attributed to the lingering wildfire smoke in the air. But looking at your temperatures for this afternoon, will be quite nice and mild across much of the Midwest to Northeast. Temperatures in the 70s to lower 80s as we head throughout your day. A bit cooler in Iowa and Missouri due to the rainfall moving through the area, maybe as low as 70 today in these areas, but still overall a nice day for much of these areas. Not so much for the plains and deep south. Temperatures in the 90s to near 100 degrees. Southwest corner of the U.S. will be baking with temperatures near 120, especially in the southwestern corner of Arizona and the southeastern parts of California. Watching that very closely. The Pacific Northwest temperatures in the 90s to near 100, especially in the eastern parts of Washington, Oregon, and even western parts of Nevada. The West Coast, though, temperatures around the 80s, around Seattle and even parts of Medford. So watching that very closely for your Friday afternoon. Not looking too bad, but again, with those ongoing wildfire potential and with the dry air again, not good for you guys with that ongoing. But speaking of the heat, this heat dome will be slowly making its way towards the east as you do expect the hotter air to eventually take bigger shape as we head towards the weekend, as this high pressure continues to get stronger, and eventually do expect it to move back to the east. And by Monday and Tuesday of next week, we could have it sitting right over the Midwest. You can see with the areas in the red and dark reds indicates areas of hotter anomalies. And at this time, again, this looks like it'll move slowly to the east. But as it does, unfortunately, this is going to lead to this pattern called the Ring of Fire pattern, where just like what we saw the last several weeks, whenever we had this pattern occur, this will contribute to complexes of storms riding along the ridge and traveling down to the southeast. So looking at that occurring probably from, I would say, eastern Montana into the Dakotas and stretching down towards the Midwest and into parts of the southeast. And unfortunately, that looks to be the case, especially as we head throughout this weekend and into early part of next week, watching that very closely. So maybe see complexes of storms, maybe even the ratio, given the right conditions, could occur with this pattern. So watching that very closely as we head into this week and again early next week for that to occur. Now, with today, we do have a slight risk in place for eastern parts of North Dakota into western parts of Minnesota, even the northwestern part of the area, actually. But that will be in place for your day today. A slight risk indicating scattered severe weather, a marginal risk indicating isolated severe weather for your Friday afternoon, and then a couple areas down here in Texas in the southeastern corner of the U.S. tied to some isolated strong storms for your day today. But looking at your main risk, the trader risk looks to be a bit low, but again, a bit higher as we head towards the Canada borderline. So looking at 5% risk around the northwestern parts of Minnesota for today. And then looking at a damaging wind risk up to 60 miles per hour wind gusts being possible, especially in the yellow highlighted area. And then the hail risk looking quite significant, especially in this slight risk zone. Is looking at potential for some baseball-sized hail be possible, the strongest storms in these areas. But looking at your model, this is the wide view look from today through tomorrow morning until you have those showers and storms ongoing across the Midwest, especially the southwestern parts of it, and then some ongoing showers and storms around the deep south tied to that slow moving front. And then you can see the complex of storms diving out of Canada and moving into parts of Minnesota and eventually clipping potentially the extreme northern parts of Wisconsin by early Saturday morning. So looking at that severe potential being there through about then. through about then, excuse me. And then looking at the Rockies, a couple showers and storms possible for these areas as we head throughout the course of your day. Not as significant as the last several days of that monsoon, but still a couple showers and storms will be around at times throughout your Friday. But looking at a closer look at the upper parts of the Dakotas, again, seeing that line of storms diving out of the area later Friday, which is this evening through early Saturday morning. But again, it has a couple scattered storms develop ahead of time, which will lead to, again, that potential for significant winds and then some large hail of that early on, and then along with that shadow threat, but then it will turn into a damaging wind threat as this system turns into a line of storms overnight. But overall, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like. And if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to always get updated on whenever I post a video on this channel. Now stay weather aware today and have a great Friday.